globe who share how they are maneuvering through a world that worships youth and shames the beautiful process of aging. And today is no exception. Our guest is international coach and author Rene Kamstra and friend. We are talking about communicating in today's world. If you are here live, terrific. If you're here on replay, just as terrific. Make a comment, let us know how you got here, and share. We love it when you share. So a little information about Rene. One of the world's top speakers and business coaches. She focuses on communication, personal development, corporate growth, and leadership for entrepreneurs and corporate executives. She consults and trains a vast range of clients located in 28 countries. Yes, I said 28 countries. She has helped her clients achieve phenomenal success, including one of her clients recently accepting a $1 million offer on Shark Tank. That's very cool, Rene. Rene is one of the top closers and sales trainers in the industry, personally closing over $450 million in sales. She works with people at home as well to help them communicate without fear. And so without further ado, I welcome Rene to the show. How you doing, Rene?
Hey, Caren, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I am excited. You have been traveling the world, and I know that you just recently got home and are staying home.
True.
So I'm really happy that you made the time to come and join us on this show, because you have so much to share. I have such a great amount of respect for you. And I like to start my show by asking the question, how do you describe a super boomer? Now, I describe super boomers as not being defined by their age. They are defined by how they show up in life, fearless, with a just watch me attitude. Fearless. Now, I want you to remember that word because we're going to be talking about that. So, Rene Kamstra, how do you describe a super boomer?
To me, a super boomer is somebody who really creates exactly the life that they want. And then they go out and make a difference in the world at the same time. Because to me, it's all about people. And if we can make a difference, we've won everything.
Great definition. You know, I already kind of gave some clues when I was introducing you about the topic. You know, the topic is about communicating in today's world. However, the world today is a lot different than it was a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago. And when we first chatted, we had a whole nother, direction as to where we are going. And so today we're talking about communication. And if you're just tuning in, we've got Rene Kamstra on, and we're talking about how communicating in today's world has changed. So how has it changed? How has communication changed?
It's really interesting, Caren, because we have two groups when we look at communication today. You have the group of entrepreneurs that really do not think about fear right now, and all they think about is, you know what, this is a time where things can really boom. If they look back at recessions from years ago, they know how to make it work. And like yourself, who's doing a show like this today, that is what a lot of super boomers or people do right now, which is taking them on a different path, right? They are looking and talking to people who are pretty positive.
Yeah, I call it
then
you're pivoting.
Right? And that is extremely important. Mm-hmm. But now you have the other group of people that all they can think about is the fear of what is going on. They are watching news 24/7. They might have been maybe fired from their work or whatever. And so they are sitting and they are not doing anything because they are totally stuck where they are. And all they can talk about is about everything that is wrong. Where, when I'm talking about my super boomer or what I believe a super boomer is, it is somebody who create exactly what they want. And so, yep, most people are sitting at home. I'm going to tell you something that you wouldn't have expected. I feel extremely healthy. And I also feel it's really important for me to do a difference and to make a difference. And so what did I do? I signed up for a company named Shift. And with Shift, you go and you get groceries for people who are scared to come out of the house. And I'm delivering groceries because
Wow.
in that way, I'm making a difference. And instead of saying, well, you know what, in this time, which is the truth, 90% of my clients put me on a hold period for right now, right?
Right.
I just made the decision. Well, then income has to come a different way,
Right. Right.
and so I'm doing shift. Doesn't mean that I don't have money. It means I do whatever it takes, and always making a difference.
So
So
how do you help people that way? I mean, we can tell them that. Is there a step, something that they can just take a first step to get out of their own way?
absolutely. But when you tell people do not listen to news 24/7, it is something that they don't always want to accept, right? But honestly, that is the step number one,
Yeah.
is not to listen to news 24/7. And so I actually have a very big rule. I take my telephone twice a day for 5 minutes. And that's the only time that I actually put it on so I can see what is really happening. For a very long time, I just decided I'm not going to watch news. I will always hear it. But because communication has changed,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are actually not communicating and are becoming extremely lonely in these days. And and what I found is if I do the 2 times a day look at what happens, I can reach out to others and make a difference by giving them just a synopsis, but then going over to little things they can do. So what do I do? When I listen to these 5 minute clips, what I will do right after is I will immediately switch over, not just to look or listen to something beautiful or positive. I actually go to music. And the reason for that is very clear. When I would listen to a good speaker like yourself or some of your shows, it doesn't mean that my mind will actually go there and listen.
Mm-hmm.
However, when I listen to music and I start singing with it, whether I have a good voice or I am off tune, it doesn't matter. I cannot think about anything else.
I love that. I listen to classical music because when music that has words, it actually gets in my way. I listen to classical music so I can just deep dive right into it, and it's very soothing. I listen to it at night, I listen to it in the morning, and whenever I need something I listen to classical. And you have a beautiful voice, by the way, Rene.
Thank you. So do you. So we always said we wanted to sing together. It's
You will.
gotta come sometime, right?
You will. We will. So let's really do a deep dive on fear. My introduction about Superboomers that we're fearless, and I'm fearless, and I have a T-shirt that says I'm fearless. I do believe I'm fearless, but I don't think that I live without fear. I think what happens is it's how we approach fear. I lean into it, and if I'm feeling, and I know that you probably have your this a similar opinion, but much better communication about it because that's your thing. But I lean into the fear because that's telling me I need to go do it. Let's talk about fear.
So fear is always an emotion, right? Fear is something that is based on maybe something that happened in the past, and now it kind of is brought back into our minds.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to actually give you a story that happened to me in Thailand that didn't have to do with fear, but it's a similar emotion.
Okay.
So I just want people to understand. So I was on a 9 month, actually it was an 11-month world tour. And in month 4, I woke up one morning in Thailand. And as I woke up, what was happening was I was so homesick. I felt incredibly lonely. I felt alone. And in my mind, I was like, you know, it, right? I'm just buying it and I'm going back home. But as the coach, I know that that's I always tell people, you never do. You don't react on emotion. So remember what I said, fear is emotion. So what I did instead is I gave myself 15 minutes to sulk. So I literally set my alarm and I said, okay, for that 15 minutes, I can cry, I can scream, I can do what I want. But when I'm done, I'm going to go to my favorite restaurant. So that's exactly what I did. So once the alarm went, I'm not kidding you. I mean, the snot was dripping. I'm sorry for the description, but it's the truth. It was dripping. My eyes was crying. It was standing wide. I put my clothes on and I started walking to the restaurant. And when I came there, it was full of lady boys, right? They didn't know how to handle me, right? Because you can imagine they are so kind. And so I sat outside and I ordered an omelet. Now, long story short, as I was sitting there still crying like crazy and just wanting to go home, a butterfly came. And that butterfly landed on the plant right next to me.
Wow.
I took a photo of that. Then, when my omelet came, that butterfly flew into my plate and it faced out. Took a photo of that. It turned around. I took a photo of that. And then before it gave me notice, it went in the middle of my omelet and it spread its wings. And I have a photo of that. So I'm happy to send you these photos if you want to show your audience.
I would love it, and we'll put it in the blog when the blog comes out. Please do.
And so what happened in that moment is I looked at this butterfly. My first thought was, am I still eating this omelet, right? And then I'm like, yeah, it's just little legs. But what was fascinating was that it looked like that omelet was being absorbed by this
Wow.
butterfly. It looked like it was honey to them or nectar, right?
Right.
But we all know they don't eat salty things.
Right.
And so, but what it did is it took me out of my whole emotion and it brought me to the present because all I could see was this butterfly.
Right.
And then what happened is I was thinking, what is the message that this butterfly is bringing me? And in that moment, I actually posted a Facebook post. And I believe within about 30 minutes, I had 169 comments from all over the world with people telling me what they believe the message was for me.
Wow.
Now, I know in that moment, that message to me, that was what I felt was, you are never alone. So I want to bring the same message to our audience. In fear, you are never alone. You just have to choose which side of the fear do you want to be on.
I agree. I agree.
And if you decide that, look, it is a fearful situation, we're not trying to make less of it.
Right.
However, it's not changing anything if we are playing into the emotion of fear. So we might just as well choose to play the other side.
Yeah.
And do whatever it takes not to stay in that emotion. Because frankly, if you communicate from a place of fear, you communicate from a place where you do not hear anything.
I actually experienced that earlier this morning. And so I'm actually feeling it as you're talking, but because it is an emotion, but it's how you decide to respond to it and going to either one side or the other. This is such an important conversation. I'm sure as you're listening out there and you're looking at that, how do you feel your fear? When you're watching this, whether live or on replay, go ahead and make a comment down there. How do you feel your fear? How do you respond to fear? What Rene just said, is that resonating with you? Tell us what you think about fear. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. So how does that, so we're talking about fear and communication. So obviously, from your perspective, and I can understand why, communication is so important when you're feeling that fear.
Right? So everybody wants to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
but it always takes a listener in order to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
But if people are fearful, they close themselves off to the listening part.
Right.
And they all want to give their opinion, but we need to remember it's always an opinion. It's nothing more than that.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Even all these things that is out there about right now, we are in the middle of a virus, right? We are sitting at home. And you and I spoke about that. But the point of the matter is, they have never experienced something like this before.
Right.
And so everything that is coming out is a matter of opinion. And opinion changes day by day.
Which we're seeing, and we're seeing every day something else. This is uncharted territory. Even,
right?
I mean, I was talking to my parents about this because they were born just at the time of the Depression, just at the time. So they don't remember it because they were babies, right? So even they didn't experience. So not even in their lifetime have they experienced this. None of us would we ever have woken up one morning and said, oh, I think we're going to experience something, a pandemic or something that affects the entire world. It almost doesn't even make sense.
Right? But I love that what you were saying. It's uncharted territory. So, it's the same term when it comes to communication. Anything that you communicate, unless it's something that you have said over and over because you don't listen, will always be uncharted territory. Because like you and I are communicating right now, if I'm not present, I cannot answer what you have to say or what you ask. And you couldn't talk with me, right? And so if we can see communication as uncharted territory where we really want to listen and we want to hear deeper what somebody else say, you know what will happen? A, you're going to have better relationships. B, you're going to have way better sales because you will understand what somebody wants and needs.
Right.
C, you will really have a better family dynamic because people will feel important.
Right.
Right? Whereas if you always have the world or the word, so to speak, you make everybody else less important than your thought process.
Yeah. You use a saying, be the eye of the storm. What does that mean?
Well, think about it. If you have a tornado going, right, you have all this stuff flying around, but the eye of the storm is that one space that is still.
Calm, yeah.
It's calm, right? And so when you actually produce this show, right, everybody around you might be like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. What can I say? How can I do this? And if you are not the eye of the storm in these interviews, there is just no way this could go well. So you are a perfect example of the eye of a storm.
And it's interesting because I bring my guests on a half an hour before for that very reason, to make sure that the guest, not every, you've been in front of lots of cameras, but I even had you come on a half an hour before so we could talk, so we could communicate. So by the time the show went live, we're just continuing the conversation, right? And so
very true.
That's interesting. You use me as an example because I guess I am the eye of the storm. I never thought about that. So why do you do what you do?
I love people. There's a few things. I love people. I love traveling. And to me, my whole purpose in this world is to make a difference, to create a shift. And unless I create a shift, even if it's 1%, there is just no way that I could live my purpose. So that's exactly what I do.
I love that. So Caren Cup, who's on live with us right now, when I asked the question about fear, she said, I stop and tell myself that my purpose is bigger than my fear. Caren, thank you so much for participating and being here live. Your thoughts and opinions are very, very important to us. So I want to thank you for that. So do you have a tip you want to share? Now, let me preface this. So when I originally sent you some thoughts about this, you responded with this, I'm actually going to say what your tip was, and we talked about this before the show. I find it ironic because here we are months later, because we booked this months ago. You said, when times become tough, I say to myself, things always work out better than expected. You had no idea when you were writing this that when times get tough, we are in tough times, right?
We are in tough times.
And you still believe that things work out better than expected?
You know, it's a saying that I've started probably 10 years ago. It's a quote that I have everywhere, and I absolutely believe it. But I also believe if I keep on telling myself while I'm in fear that things always work out better than expected, then that's exactly what's going to happen, because whatever we focus on will expand. And when I'm in fear, I cannot take myself from this side of the spectrum to this side of the spectrum in 1 minute. So those people that tell me to become positive, you know, it's just not happening, right? But if right? So, but in that moment, if I say things will work out better than expected, it is something that I can live with. And as I progress, it becomes even better than that. So I can give you another example, right? Before this, or in this pandemic, I was all over the world, right? And the date that I decided to come back, I was in Australia. We were going to have 7 events. They were all canceled. And instead they had one luncheon that I had a very big presentation. And I, in that moment, decided I'm just going to stay in Australia. I'm in beautiful Gold Coast. I'm about 1 mile away from Tom Hanks and his wife. That's where I was, in a gorgeous location, right? And I think I'm just going to stay here. And then one of my peeps literally said to me, Rene, but what if you get it and they have to choose between you and an Australian? And that's what made me come home.
Right.
So why am I bringing that up? Is in that moment, I booked a plane ticket. I got to the airport. I was going to fly to New Zealand and then from there get on American Airlines to come back home. When I checked in, New Zealand in that moment decided they closed the airport for transit people.
Oh.
Right? I am 2 hours away from flying. So they won't let me on a plane. So here I am. And yes, I had fear because now I'm sitting. I can't even go back to Queensland because Queensland closed its border with Sydney.
So what did you do?
Right? So I started saying, everything always works out better than expected. But I didn't just sit there and say this. I obviously went and stand in line so that I could buy another ticket because there were 2 more Qantas flights that would come back to America.
Oh, there you go.
And so I stood in line and the lady before me had the option to buy the last ticket. So I said these words to myself almost loud. And she couldn't make the decision. And so she phoned her husband and her husband was going back and forth. So I said, if you don't take it, I will take it. And the lady in front of the till, she said, I cannot wait anymore. I've been waiting 5 minutes on you. She sold me the last ticket.
Wow.
The last ticket. So I came home. So, I had now the choice. Am I going to feel bad because I stole somebody's ticket? Or am I feeling happy because it was just for me, right?
Well, it's interesting. You said sitting in the airport, you recited the phrase, but you didn't just sit there. You went and took action. That's like, I'm sure you've heard people say, when Napoleon Hill wrote, Think and Grow Rich. Really? We're supposed to think it and we're just going to be rich? No, of course not. It's the same kind of thing. It's what you put inside, what you believe in, and then the actions that you take, right, to manifest that.
Totally.
Yeah, so good.
So I want to just say, you take the actions when that gut feeling is talking to you. To me, it's not the actions that your brain tells you, because in communication, I just want to bring this point up. The brain is a very small part of your body. Everything that takes action is actually your arms, your legs,
Right.
your heart, your throat.
Everything.
It's part of the action, right? And so I just want to make sure that we preface this, because people think they're going to make it happen. And many times that's when you bump your head 1,000 times.
Right.
However, what you conceive or perceive, you can conceive, or what is the saying? Maybe, whatever you can think about it anyway, you can make happen. And so when that feeling comes up, that is when you move forward. And that's what happened.
And well, I for one, I'm happy that it happens, that you were able to come back so that we would have the ability to do the show with decent internet connection. Paulo from Brazil, he just made a comment. I put it up on the screen. So along those lines of intuition, you knew that I was going to ask you this question. What is your superpower? And then you asked me, you said, well, what do you think your superpower is? And I said to you that I thought your superpower was listening.
Correct.
And hearing the words, not just the words coming at you, but actually hearing and internalizing them. And you said your superpower.
I said my superpower is listening, but combine that with whatever is coming through me.
Right. Intuition.
So my intuition, my gut feeling, because frankly, that is what made my clients millions and millions of dollars. Because many times when I coach, I don't even know what's coming out of my mouth, but I trust it.
I love that. And I'm sure that many times when you coach, you may not even be an expert in that particular field, but you're able to look at the much bigger picture and be able to just let it come out. So that's one of the things that you are so good at. You've spoken on my stage before. You have you have been on other shows. I think Business Band. You've been on different things. You don't say no to anything. You just put yourself out there, and I'm grateful for that, because you said yes to us. I am sure that our viewers are saying, I need to get me some Rene Kamstra. And so we're going to tell them how they can find you. They can first find you on your website, which is www.renekamstra, or they can find you on Facebook, and they can just type your name into the search and you will come up. And then finally on Twitter, all the rest of these are going to be the same, at Rene Kamstra. On Instagram, it is at Rene Kamstra. And on LinkedIn, guess again, it is at Rene Kamstra. So you want to make sure that, I know you want to, because what Rene has done for so many people, not just these big corporations or the ones that are making millions and millions of dollars, she does it for people like me and people like others who need her intuition, need her listening, need her gut to tell you and to help you take that next step forward. Rene, I want to thank you. Our time, I can't even believe how fast this went. I want to thank you for coming into the show today. I'm going to drop you into the green room. I have my Superboomer moment. I actually was writing it down as you were talking, because I liked it. I liked what you said. You combined something that I said with something that you said. So it's kind of a joint thing. So I'm going to drop you into the show, and don't go away. I will be back there in a second. All right. Whoops. Now I'm bringing you back in again. Hold it. Sorry about that. All right. So my Superboomer moment of the week, and I do this every week. I listen to our conversations, I internalize it, and then I try to bring something together. And you said communication is uncharted territory. I love that expression. I think it should be a quote. I think that we should tweet that out, because it is. It is definitely uncharted territory, because it changes every single day. It changes every single day. So Rene, thank you for that. That is a learning piece for me today. And I also want to bring up something else. So, and it's all in alignment with fear. And I can only imagine that there are a lot of us that are sitting in our homes, that are worrying, that have a great amount of anxiety. They're lonely. Maybe they're all by themselves because they don't have anybody they were living with, and now they are literally all by themselves, and they're suffering from anxiety. There's meditation, all sorts of things. This book in particular is the book that I've read, The Worry Cure, 7 Steps to Stop Worry from Stopping You. We have that book in the Superboomer Lifestyle store, so go and check it out. It's a great book. It gives you actual steps on how to stop worry from stopping you. So do check it out. All right. Finally, I want to thank you. You have made a difference in my life, Rene, and all of you have made a difference in my life as well. You made a decision today to tune in to this show, and for that, I'm eternally grateful. And I want to make sure that you join us next week for the next episode of the Super Boomer Lifestyle Show. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.